He left his sick wife alone in the hospital on Valentine's night to sleep at his side chick's house. But when the doctor called him back the next morning, what he discovered in that hospital room didn't just break him. It destroyed everything he thought he knew about his own life. Everyone in Greenfield Village knew Daniel Carter as a good man. He greeted elders with respect. He paid his church dues on time. He helped neighbors carry heavy loads without being asked. On Sundays, he sat in the third row of Grace Chapel with his wife Sarah beside him, their hands intertwined like they were still newlyweds. But everyone only saw what Daniel wanted them to see. The real Daniel had a second phone, a second life, and a second woman waiting for him in the city. Her name was Lisa. Lisa was 26 years old, worked at a boutique in the city centre, and had been dating Daniel for 11 months. She knew he was married. She didn't care. He told her his marriage was basically over, that Sarah was difficult, that he was just waiting for the right time to leave. Lisa believed every word. Sarah believed in something else entirely. She believed in her husband. Sarah Carter was 34 years old and had been married to Daniel for 9 years. They had built their life together from nothing. When Daniel lost his job 3 years ago, Sarah sold her gold jewelry to keep the family going. When his mother fell sick, Sarah nursed her for 4 months without complaint. When he cried at night thinking nobody saw him, Sarah held him until morning. She loved him completely, blindly, fully, and she had absolutely no idea about Lisa. Valentine's Eve arrived on a cold Thursday. Sarah had been feeling unwell for 3 days. Headaches, dizziness, a strange pain in her side that wouldn't go away. She told herself it was stress. She had been working double shifts at the local school where she taught, trying to save money for a Valentine's surprise for Daniel. She had booked a small table at the only fancy restaurant in their town. Nothing extravagant, just candles, his favourite meal, and a card she had written herself. 9 years and I still choose you every single morning. Happy Valentine's Day, my love. But Thursday evening, while cooking his dinner, Sarah collapsed, just like that. One moment, she was stirring pepper soup. The next, she was on the kitchen floor, unable to get up. Daniel rushed her to St. Margaret's Hospital in the city 40 minutes away. The doctors admitted her immediately. Tests, scans, IV drips, a small private room with a window that looked out at the city lights. Daniel sat beside her bed, holding her hand. "I'm fine," Sarah kept saying. "I'm always fine. You don't have to stay." "I'm staying," Daniel said, and he meant it, for about 4 hours. Because at 11:30 p.m., while Sarah drifted in and out of sleep, Daniel's second phone buzzed under his jacket. "Lisa, it's almost Valentine's Day, baby. Are you coming or not? I've been waiting. I bought something special to wear for you. Don't disappoint me tonight." Daniel looked at Sarah. Her eyes were closed. Her breathing was steady. He told himself she was fine. He told himself he would be back before morning. He told himself nobody would know. He stood up quietly, placed Sarah's hand gently on the blanket, leaned down and kissed her forehead. "Rest, baby. I'll be right back." Sarah's eyes fluttered open for just a moment. "Don't go too far," she whispered. "I won't," he said. He lied. By midnight, Daniel Carter was on the highway to the city, roses on the passenger seat, driving toward a woman who didn't love him half as much as the woman he had just left alone in a hospital bed. And somewhere behind him, in room 14 of St. Margaret's Hospital, a doctor was reviewing Sarah's test results with an expression that had nothing to do with a simple headache. Lisa's apartment was everything Sarah's house was not. Modern, expensive, decorated with fairy lights and red roses and a bottle of champagne sitting in an ice bucket by the window. Valentine music playing softly. The smell of perfume so strong it hit Daniel the moment she opened the door. She was wearing a red dress that left very little to imagination. "You came!" She threw her arms around him. Daniel stepped inside, and for approximately 30 seconds, he forgot he had a wife in a hospital bed 40 minutes away. "Of course I came," he said. "I was worried. You said she was sick." "She's fine. Sleeping. The doctors have everything under control," Lisa pouted. "You always make me feel like the second choice." "You're not the second choice," Daniel said, the lie rolling off his tongue so easily it frightened him. "You're the reason I drove here on Valentine's night. Doesn't that count for something?" Lisa smiled. Crisis resolved, champagne poured. They ate the dinner she had cooked. They laughed. They danced badly to old love songs in her small living room. Daniel told her she was beautiful. She told him she loved him. Neither of them mentioned Sarah again. Back at the hospital, Sarah woke up at 1 a.m. to find the chair beside her bed empty. She sat up slowly, looking around the small room. The machines beeped softly. A night nurse passed in the corridor. The city lights twinkled through the window. "Daniel?" she called softly. Nothing. She reached for her phone on the bedside table, called him. It rang 6 times. Voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail again. She sat in that hospital bed, alone, on Valentine's Eve, connected to an IV drip, trying not to think about where her husband was. She turned on her phone torch and found the Valentine card she had been carrying in her bag for 2 weeks, the one she had written herself, the one she had been planning to give him over dinner at the restaurant she had booked. She read it to herself in the dim light. 9 years, and I still choose you every single morning. Happy Valentine's Day, my love. She folded it carefully, put it back in her bag. Then she did something that would break your heart if you saw it. She smiled, not a sad smile, a genuine, peaceful smile. Because Sarah Carter was not the kind of woman who fell apart when things went wrong. She was the kind of woman who kept loving even when she had every reason not to. "He'll be back," she whispered to herself. "He's probably just getting food. He hasn't eaten since this morning." She pulled the blanket to her chin, closed her eyes. Outside her window, the city celebrated Valentine's. Couples walked hand in hand. Restaurant lights glowed warm and golden. Somewhere in this same city, her husband was dancing with another woman. Sarah didn't know any of this. She just closed her eyes and trusted the man she loved. Meanwhile, at 3 a.m. in Lisa's apartment, Daniel's first phone rang, the hospital number flashing on the screen. He silenced it. Probably just routine, he thought. She's fine. I'll call back in the morning. He turned over and went to sleep. At St. Margaret's Hospital, the doctor put down the phone and made a note on Sarah's file. The note said, "Husband unreachable. Patient unaware of results. Will inform in morning. Below that, in careful medical handwriting, were 3 words that would change Daniel Carter's life forever. 3 words he didn't know yet. 3 words that were waiting for him like a wall he was driving straight toward at full speed. Daniel woke up at 7 a.m. to 4 missed calls. 3 from the hospital, 1 from Sarah's sister, Rebecca. He sat up in Lisa's bed, heart suddenly pounding. The Valentine fairy lights were still on, casting pink shadows across the ceiling. Lisa slept peacefully beside him, her red dress crumpled on the floor. He called the hospital back. "Mr. Carter, this is Dr. Evelyn Morris from St. Margaret's. I need you to come in as soon as possible. There are some results we need to discuss with you in person." "Is she okay? Is Sarah okay? Please come in, Mr. Carter. We'll explain everything when you arrive." Daniel was in his car within 4 minutes. He drove so fast he ran 2 red lights. His hands gripped the steering wheel like he was trying to squeeze water from stone. His mind raced through every terrible possibility. What if it's serious? What if she got worse overnight? What if he stopped thinking, just drove? When he walked into St. Margaret's, Rebecca was already there, Sarah's younger sister. She was sitting in the corridor outside room 14, and when she saw Daniel, she stood up slowly. Her expression was something Daniel had never seen on Rebecca's face before. It was not anger. It was not sadness. It was pity. "Daniel," she said quietly. "Where is she? Is she okay? What happened?" Rebecca looked at him for a long moment. "The doctor is waiting for you." Dr. Evelyn Morris was a small woman with calm eyes and the kind of voice that delivered difficult news regularly. She shook Daniel's hand and gestured for him to sit. Daniel sat. "Mr. Carter, your wife was brought in yesterday evening presenting with headaches, dizziness, and abdominal pain. We ran a full panel of tests overnight, and..." The doctor opened the file on her desk. "The first thing I want to tell you is that your wife is stable. She's not in danger." Daniel exhaled. "Thank God. However," the doctor paused, "there are 2 things we discovered from her tests that I need you to be aware of." "2 things?" "The first is that Sarah has been dealing with severe exhaustion and early signs of anemia. She has been significantly overworking herself. Her body is under serious strain. She needs rest, proper rest, not occasional rest sustained, genuine rest over several weeks." Daniel nodded slowly. "Okay, and the second thing?" Dr. Morris looked at him with those calm, steady eyes. "Mr. Carter, your wife is pregnant." Silence. Complete, total, absolute silence. Daniel heard the word. His brain received it, but for approximately 10 seconds, his entire system simply stopped working. "She's... what?" 8 weeks pregnant. She didn't know. She came in for headaches, and we found it during routine blood work. The doctor's voice softened. "Congratulations." Daniel sat in that chair and felt the world tilt sideways. His wife in a hospital bed, alone all night, carrying his child, while he was in another woman's apartment, dancing to love songs and drinking champagne. He stood up so fast the chair scraped loudly across the floor. "Where is she? Which room?" "Room 14. "But Mr. Carter," the doctor called after him, "she doesn't know yet. We waited for you. We thought you should be there when she hears." Daniel was already running down the corridor. He pushed open the door to room 14. Sarah was sitting up in bed, eating what appeared to be the world's smallest portion of hospital porridge, wearing the same clothes she had been admitted in, her hair tied back simply, reading something on her phone. She looked up when he entered. "Daniel." Her face broke into a relieved smile. "There you are. I called you last night." "Sarah, I figured you went home to sleep. You must have been exhausted sitting here all evening. Did you eat? You look pale. Are you okay? Come sit down." "Sarah, stop!" His voice cracked. She stopped. He crossed the room in 3 steps and sat in the chair beside her bed. He took both her hands in his. She felt how cold his fingers were and immediately tried to warm them, rubbing his hands between hers the way she always did when he came in from the cold. She was comforting him in a hospital bed. After spending Valentine's night alone, she was still taking care of him. Something inside Daniel's chest cracked open like old wood. "The doctor told me something," he said. Sarah's eyes searched his face. "What? What is it? Is it serious? Daniel, you're scaring me. You're pregnant." Silence. Sarah's hands went completely still around his. "What? 8 weeks. They found it in the blood tests. You didn't know." Sarah stared at him. He watched the news travel across her face like weather crossing a field. Confusion first, then slow realization, then something so pure and overwhelming it had no name. Her free hand moved slowly to her stomach. 8 weeks, she whispered. 8 weeks. Her eyes filled with tears. Not sad tears, the kind that come from a place so deep inside you that you didn't even know it existed. "We've been trying for 3 years, she said quietly. "I know." 3 years, Daniel. "I know, Sarah." She looked down at her stomach. Her hand was trembling. "All this time I thought maybe it was never going to happen for us." Daniel watched his wife receive the news he should have been present for last night. The news she should not have faced alone. The moment he should have been holding her hand for. Instead, he had been 40 minutes away, in another woman's apartment, drinking champagne, sleeping until 7 a.m., missing 3 hospital calls. The guilt hit him like a truck travelling at full speed. "Where did you go last night?" Sarah asked suddenly. Her voice was still gentle, still warm. She wasn't accusatory. She was genuinely asking, and somehow that gentleness was worse than any accusation. Daniel opened his mouth, closed it. "I needed some air. I walked around. I'm sorry I missed your calls. My phone was on silent." Sarah looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Okay, she believed him. She still believed him. She reached up and touched his face with one hand. "We're having a baby, Daniel." He closed his eyes against her palm, felt the warmth of her hand on his face. The hand that had cooked his meals and washed his clothes and nursed his sick mother and held him when he cried and written him Valentine cards he hadn't even received yet. "Yes," he said. His voice was barely a sound. "We are." Rebecca appeared in the doorway behind him. She had heard every word. Her eyes met Daniel's over Sarah's shoulder. And in Rebecca's expression, Daniel saw something that made his blood run cold. She knew. Rebecca knew exactly where he had been last night. Rebecca did not say anything. in room 14. She smiled at her sister, kissed her forehead, told her the pregnancy was a miracle, held her hand, laughed with her about baby names. She was the perfect supportive sister. But every time Sarah looked away, Rebecca's eyes would find Daniel. And those eyes said one thing very clearly: we need to talk. Daniel followed her to the hospital corridor at 10 a.m. under the pretense of getting Sarah breakfast from the cafeteria. The moment the door to room 14 closed behind them, Rebecca turned on him. "I called you 6 times last night," she said. Her voice was quiet but sharp as a blade. 6 times. Your wife was in the hospital, alone, on Valentine's night. Rebecca. Where were you, Daniel? I told Sarah I know about Lisa. The corridor went very quiet. Daniel felt his face change. What? Rebecca crossed her arms. I've known for 4 months. I saw you together at the Riverside Mall. You were holding her hand. You kissed her. I followed you to her apartment building and I wrote down the address. She paused. I didn't tell Sarah because I kept hoping you would end it yourself. I kept thinking you were a better man than what I saw. Daniel said nothing. But last night, when Sarah called me crying because she couldn't reach you and she was alone and scared in a hospital bed, Rebecca's voice cracked slightly. I called that apartment. I have the number from the building directory. Daniel's eyes widened. You called? Lisa answered. I could hear music in the background, Valentine music. Rebecca looked at him with an expression that mixed pity with absolute contempt. She answered your phone, Daniel. She said, he can't come to the phone right now. She was laughing. Daniel closed his eyes. Your wife was in room 14 with an IV in her arm, alone, finding out she's pregnant, and you were in that woman's apartment, having a Valentine's party. Rebecca stepped closer. What kind of man does that make you? A long, terrible silence. I'm going to tell her, Daniel said finally. I'm going to tell Sarah everything. Good. I just need... No. Rebecca shook her head firmly. No. I just need no more time. No more excuses. You tell her today, in that room, before she leaves this hospital. Her voice dropped to a whisper. She is carrying your child. She deserves the truth, all of it. Daniel leaned against the corridor wall. He looked suddenly 10 years older than when he had walked in. She's going to leave me. Maybe, Rebecca said. That's the consequence of the choice you made. But staying silent is not an option anymore. I love her, Rebecca. Rebecca looked at him. Long and hard. Love is not what you did last night, Daniel. Love is what she did, lying in that bed alone, defending you to the nurses, warming your cold hands this morning, forgiving you before she even knew what she was forgiving. She walked back toward room 14. That's love. She paused at the door without turning around. You have 1 hour. If you don't tell her, I will. She went inside. Daniel stood alone in the hospital corridor on Valentine's morning. Outside the window, couples walked past with flowers and balloons. A man proposed on one knee right there on the hospital steps. A woman cried happy tears. Daniel watched it all and felt nothing but shame. He straightened up, took a breath, and walked back into room 14 to tell his pregnant wife the truth. Daniel closed the door behind him. Sarah was on the phone with her mother, excitedly sharing the pregnancy news. Her face was glowing in a way he hadn't seen in years. She was laughing, one hand still resting on her stomach, completely unaware of what was coming. She held up one finger at Daniel. 1 minute. He nodded, sat down, waited. She ended the call. Mama is screaming. She's already picking baby names. Sarah, I have to tell you something. Something in his voice stopped her completely. She looked at him. Really looked at him. The way she always did when she could feel something serious coming. Okay, she said quietly. He told her everything. Lisa, 11 months, the second phone, the lie about needing air last night, the apartment, the Valentine's dinner, the champagne, all of it, every single word. He didn't soften anything. He didn't make excuses. He just told the truth, the entire truth. When he finished, the room was so quiet he could hear the IV machine beeping and the distant sound of the city outside the window. Sarah sat completely still. She was looking at her hands in her lap. How long? She said finally. Her voice was steady, unnervingly steady. 11 months. She nodded slowly. While I was working double shifts to save for our Valentine dinner, she said quietly, while I was writing you cards, while I was crying every month when the pregnancy test came back negative. She paused. You were with someone else? Yes. And last night, when I was alone here? Yes. Another long silence. Then Sarah looked up. Daniel expected rage. Screaming, tears, throwing things. He deserved all of it. What he did not expect was what actually happened. Sarah Carter started to laugh. Not hysterical laughter, not breakdown laughter. The genuine, exhausted, deeply tired laugh of a woman who has just understood something very clearly. You know what's funny? She said. I called the restaurant this morning to cancel our reservation, the one I booked for tonight. I apologized to them because I was in the hospital. I was apologizing for being sick. She shook her head. I was thinking about you even from a hospital bed, Daniel. Sarah. No. Her laughter faded. Her voice became clear and calm. I am not going to scream. I am not going to throw anything because I have a baby to protect now, and screaming is bad for babies. She reached over to her bag, pulled out the Valentine card, placed it on the bed between them. I wrote this for you 2 weeks ago. Daniel picked it up with trembling hands. Read it. 9 years, and I still choose you every single morning. Happy Valentine's Day, my love. His tears fell onto the card before he could stop them. I don't deserve this, he said. No, Sarah agreed. You don't. She was quiet for a moment. Then, I'm not making any decisions today. I have a baby growing inside me, and I just found out my husband has been living a double life. That is too much for one Valentine's Day. A small, sad smile touched her lips. But I want you to understand something, Daniel. I want you to look at me and really hear what I'm saying. He looked at her. While you were celebrating Valentine's with another woman, I was in this room alone, finding out I was pregnant, reading our card to myself in the dark, making excuses for why you weren't answering your phone. Her voice was steady as stone. That is what loving you has cost me. Daniel broke completely. He dropped his face into his hands and cried the way men cry when they finally understand the full weight of what they have destroyed. Deep, ugly, gasping sobs. Sarah watched him cry. She did not touch him. She did not comfort him. For the first time in 9 years, she let Daniel Carter sit with his own pain. Rebecca stood quietly in the corner, saying nothing. Later that afternoon, Sarah was discharged. She went to her mother's house in the village to rest. As the doctor ordered, Daniel went home to an empty house. He found the restaurant booking confirmation on the kitchen counter, the one Sarah had made. Table for 2, candles, his favourite meal, a note with the booking. Surprise dinner for my love. Don't be late. He sat on the kitchen floor and cried again. 6 weeks later, Sarah called him. She had made a decision. But that decision, whether she chose to rebuild or to walk away, was between her and God and the new life growing inside her. What the village saw 3 months later was a woman walking with her head high, her stomach beginning to show, her sister beside her, her face peaceful. What happened to Daniel, to Lisa, to the marriage, only their household knew. But what everyone saw, what nobody could deny, was this. Sarah Carter, the woman who spent Valentine's night alone in a hospital bed, had come out of it carrying life, literally and otherwise. Some people will leave you in a hospital bed to chase excitement. Some people will spend Valentine's night in someone else's arms while you lie alone wondering where they are. But here is what betrayal cannot touch. Your dignity, your worth, the life growing inside you, whether that life is a child, a dream, a future, or simply the stronger version of yourself being born through pain. Daniel thought he was choosing between 2 women on Valentine's night. He was actually choosing between his character and his shame. He chose shame. And Sarah chose herself. That, in the end, is the only Valentine that matters. The end is less than #0. 5 is greater than. Thanks for watching.